Hello there. It's a slightly delayed start today. Oh, okay. It's a very delayed start today. We are about 55 minutes behind what passes for a schedule on this channel, but that's okay. I had to go to the city this morning and do a meeting and get some stuff, and meeting overran. And then we've had like a named storm. It's been really windy and not particularly wet, but on my way home, there was a downpour, so I got caught in that and had to shelter for a little bit. It took a little while to get home. So, anyways, we're here. The main aim of today's stream is we need to finish days 8, 9, and 10 of the PiHut Maker Advent Calendar that we've got. And we need to do that today because I'm aiming to wrap this project up tomorrow. So we'll do days 11 and 12 tomorrow. And then it's the weekend and then it's Christmas. So probably not be streaming for a little while. Definitely won't be streaming on the weekend or Christmas Day, or I can't imagine Boxing Day the day after, but might do something between Christmas and New Year. So if you are interested in that, give us a follow on wherever you're watching this, or just follow me on, we're still going to call it Twitter. Follow me on there. So yeah, the other thing that I tend to do a little bit of on these things is what have I been up to outside of the stream. So I am going to share the desktop here. And yeah, I think that's right. Okay. So we'll add this to the stage. We're also back to using Chrome for StreamYard today. So no Stream Deck pushy buttons. I'm managing this off the other screen. So yesterday, we took a drive out and we did about 420 miles, and we went from Nottingham to the top of Anglesey, which, if you don't know, the United Kingdom is an island accessible by bridge, and it's in Wales. It's in North Wales. So we went there and had a baguette here with a seagull that was checking us out, but didn't get any food. And we went and looked at some stormy waters. It was a little bit windy and wet, but nothing like what it is today. And we also happened to go to this place, which is the place with like the very, very long place name and the station sign that is correspondingly very long. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, but you get the idea. So we went there and had a look at that. And you'll quite often see me drinking coffee on these streams, not today because it's in the afternoon. And I frankly had quite a lot of coffee with being in meetings. But we do collect these You Are Here Starbucks place name mugs. So you, if you want to play a fun game on this, you can see what place I've got on a given day on the stream. Picked up a new one yesterday, so picked up a Welsh one. So we now have a Welsh mug. Then the other thing that I was doing yesterday was, and I delivered this morning at one of my meetings in town, was building a second instance of the ISS tracker project. So this thing is MicroPython. It uses Pimoroni Badger 2040W here, which is an e-ink display with a PicoW on the back. And it talks to a service that I wrote that calls the ISS tracker API, gets a lat long for the ISS, and then embellishes that with a haversine calculation for how far is it from wherever the user is, what the name of the place is. So it uses Google Geocoder for that. Then one of the things that I found was Google Geocoder knows nothing about oceans. So if you're over the ocean, and the ISS spends a lot of time over the ocean because the ocean is the majority of the surface of the planet, then Google Geocoder doesn't really tell you, this is the Indian Ocean or the Tasman Sea or the North Sea or the Pacific or whatever. So I used a second service from GeoNames to do that. I bundled all of those up. They're in a Google Cloud service that I wrote. It's just a cloud function. And then this front end calls that and does some math to plot where the ISS is on the map, and it maintains a trail of like the last 15 positions. So you get this sort of dot trail over the map. If you want to play with that, source code's available. I will throw up my GitHub URL. You can find it in my GitHub. So that's the source code is there. That's my GitHub homepage, but it's easy to find from there. Not very well documented at the minute, to be frank. I need to go back and do that. But there's a Cloud Function folder that has the JavaScript server side, and there's the Badger folder that has the MicroPython front end. If you want to play with that, feel free to try it. I'll probably cover this on the stream in future because it's a project that could benefit from maybe having a video explanation that we could then point to in the README. And one of the ways of explaining things fast is make a video about them. So rather than write, a blog post or improve on this super basic README a lot, I could make a video and then sort of I will improve the README, but go from there. So yeah, that's the update. So today is hopefully the most ambitious day of working with this thing. We have to do 3 separate boxes today in order to finish on time. And we're about 50 minutes late. So enough like preamble, so I'm going to get on with it. We have 8, 9, and 10. I kept saying I would do this. I have actually got the tab up with the pin out this time. So we don't have to go look for the pin out that the instructions will invariably tell us to do something with. And I don't know if you remember, but we made something that approximates like an alarm in the previous stream. So if we swap over here and add in the second camera, you'll see that here's the circuit as we left it. It's got this PIR sensor on it. So that's like a trigger. Motion happens. And then when motion happens, it triggers some outputs. So the LEDs that we've had since day 2, they were like one of the first things that were added in the project and have stuck around the entirety of the project, as other things like the potentiometer and the light sensor have come and gone. And then we have a buzzer there that's an output. And what happens when you trigger that PIR by waving your hand around in front of it or moving in its field of, for want of a better word, vision, is that it flashes the LEDs, makes sounds on the buzzer, and then kind of goes to sleep for 5 seconds. So it's not constantly triggering itself. So that's where we left it. In common with a lot of other days, it said not to take it to pieces at the end. So there we have it. It is still in the shape that we left it in. And what we're going to do now is let's bring back the desktop here. We'll keep the second camera up as well for fun. What we're going to do now is go to the project page for this. So I've clicked ahead a couple of times. We've got the, don't need that tab. Right. We've got the daily box guides for each day. And today we are starting at day 8. We're going to try and do 8, 9, and 10. The aim of this stream is largely for me to just mess around and practice streaming and get comfortable with things after a bit of a break. Ooh, but the other aim is that I don't know what's in these boxes. So it's a proper advent calendar. I have no idea what the subject is. There are other streamers on YouTube specifically, and probably other places, that are a little bit further along than me with this, but I've not cheated and looked ahead, and I've not looked into these pages. So let's begin with day 8 here and see what day 8 has. Tracking temps. So I guess that's temperatures rather than temporary workers or other things. So let's see. One thing I've not sort of called out on this, which I think is nice, is there's community comments on this as well. So if you have a problem with it or you've got some suggestions, I noticed for the buzzer, somebody had suggested like more tones so that you can produce a whole scale and make more songs. People have been doing that. So 32 on this one. That's quite a lot. But this has been around since last year. So this is the same advent calendar as last year's one. Right, so we're going to be sensing the temperature of our local environment and using these readings to make fun projects. Temperature sensors are another component that you'll likely walk past every day. So yeah, your thermostat, for example. So there's one in most houses. Ovens, so the oven knows when it's up to temperature, the car, when to turn the fan on, that sort of thing. Okay, so in box 8, you will find one custom waterproof temperature sensor with male jumper wires. We've got a lot. We have a lot of these jumper wires by the end of this project. In addition to the ones on the board, there's a sort of cast-off pile of things that I've removed from the board as we go along, and all of their wires are all in that pile. So at some point, I've got to go through it, put it all back into the various boxes so that this kit could be used again by somebody. I won't make a stream of me putting it all back in the boxes because that's not very entertaining. So let's get box 8 out of here. Just pull 8. It's a green one. Open it up. And everything looks to be in a bag. So we'll hold up to this camera. It's a bag. We got, looks like the temperature sensor is as pictured. It's on the end of a long cable and it's got some jumpers on it itself. And hopefully there's a resistor in there as well. So see. So put the box away for now. Put it back in the stack. Trying to keep things tidy as we can when we go along, because things get out of shape otherwise. Right, so I'm going to open the bag here, and I will lay out what we've got in it in front of the second camera. So let's make the camera a bit bigger, and let us see what is going on in this bag. It's a little bit stiff. It's quite a tight fit. So let's remove the circuit. We have got the 3 jumper wires. So we got red, white, and black again. I've been trying to use the convention of red is power, black is ground, and white is the data one. So we'll see if we can continue with that. We have got indeed the little resistor there. So that, and then the thing that takes up the most of the space is this, I guess, temperature probe. So this is like the business end. I guess we could drop this into something if it's waterproof, but it could go into something or somewhere. So that's the contents of today's first bag of 3 that we will be looking at. So let's go back to the desktop and see what we're supposed to do with this thing. So now we've got it out of here. Today's project, we will use our temperature sensor to measure the ambient temperature in your home. Then move on to more exciting projects like sensing liquid temperature. Well, we've got some liquid. I don't know if I want to put this in something I'm drinking, but if we need something, I'll wander off and get a glass and come back. So part of doing this blind is I don't know if there's any prerequisites that we need to have from the household environment. We'll see as we go. So this is a metal tip, houses the sensor, and that's the type of sensor. And then, we can put it in water and other liquids. And this is easy to use with a breadboard because it's already got the jumpers on one end. So just plug right in. That's good. One wire is a serial communication protocol for devices. One wire allows a special device like our temperature sensor to talk to a controller like our Pico, enabling it to send data to the Pico to be used to program. Okay. Despite the name one wire, you need at least 2 wires. Why does that not surprise me? That and in some examples, we're using 3 wires, which is true in our case. So one wire is related to data comms. Fair enough. So you only need one wire for the data. The other 2 are there for power and ground. Some things you might need to plug multiple data wires into in order to use them. So fair enough. So we're once again going to use the LEDs and the buzzer. So those LEDs we put in on day 2, they're kind of hanging around again. So remove the PIR, leaving just the LEDs and the buzzer on the main breadboard. So I'll do that. And I also strip down the little breadboard because what I've learned is they usually want us to use that again. So let us look at this. So here's the PIR stuff. Let's separate it from the main board by yanking its wires out there. So the main board is now LEDs and the buzzer. So that should be what they want. Then let's strip down the board and put the other stuff in the discard pile. So we've got empty that one if we need it. This one is in the start position. So what are we going to do? You should probably be able to see that too. There you go. So now add the temperature sensor to the mini breadboard. So, okay, we are going to use the little one again. Your sensor should have 3 wires, red, yellow, and white. And the white wire may be black depending on the batch. Well, we look like we're in luck. We've got red, yellow, and white there, so no problem. Place the wires into the top edge of the mini breadboard in the order white, yellow, red. I'm just going to open this out a bit as well so that it doesn't immediately pull the wires out. So I need rightmost red, yellow in the middle, and white off to the left. So I'll plug those in and look at that on the second camera. Plug those in with a couple of spaces gap between them. Should be fine. And let's see what else we're going to do. Next, add the resistor to connect the yellow and the red wires. So they've got that going diagonally, but as long as it connects that track with the red to that track with the yellow, should be fine. So let's do that. I'm just going to bend these legs on the resistor a bit here. Get a gap. So red and yellow need to be joined. So red there, yellow here. Push that down so it goes in. And we have a resistor in the circuit. So that's probably might be everything on the breadboard. No, I suppose we have to connect. We have to connect the mini breadboard to the main one, don't we? So yeah. Now we need to add 3 wires to complete the circuit and connect the sensor to our Pico. Connect the left leg to the blue ground lane. So let's just double check. That's this white one, the white thing. So we'll use ground. We said the convention was use black. So connect the white, the lane that the white one is in there, to the blue ground lane on here. It shouldn't actually matter where it goes in there. So that's in. Okay, the middle leg to GPIO 26, physical pin 31. We're going to be doing that counting thing again because I keep forgetting they use the same pins. So the middle leg is data because it's going to a GPIO pin. So I'll use my white jumper for that. And then the 3v3 will use the red one. So we need pin 31. So over here, 31 is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th one down with the USB at the top of our picture. It's on the right hand side. So somewhat over here. So, well, first off, I'll just connect it to the middle leg on the mini breadboard. So there we go. And then I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, right. So we've established 2 wires between those boards. I'll bring this up on the big camera when we've got all 3 done. And then the right leg, the power one to 3v3 on physical pin 36. So first off, I'll connect this to the rightmost leg. There. Okay, that's in. Let's find 36. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down on the right hand side with the USB to the top. So it's 5th one now. So you'd think I'd know about this by now. Also, the wind is blowing really strongly outside again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. All right. So we've hopefully connected those 2 together like that. We can make this big on the screen now so you can see it a bit better. There's 3 pins at the back there. They go into the right places in the Pico. I'm kind of thinking an overhead view, if we're going to do this stuff long term, will be good. And also maybe a camera where the zoom can be changed a bit more readily. Although this one, you can zoom it with the Logitech app. So if you watch this, I can zoom in, zoom out a bit. So that's not bad. I mean, use what you've got. This is what we've got. So yeah. Right, back to seeing what we're up to. So we've got the circuit, we assume. So simple temperature sensing. Let's start with a minimal program to take a single temperature reading from the sensor. Okay. And we're going to do some more imports. So there's libraries for supporting this one-wire protocol and DS18X20. I guess that's a library for, I think they said that was what the temperature sensor actually is. Uh, mhm. Yeah. So it's a DS18B20. I guess there's multiple values. So the library is DS18X20. So I guess the library supports different types of this sensor. So they're built into MicroPython, so we don't have to download anything. That's nice. Oh, hello, Jess. So Jess is a developer advocate over at Octa and she's done stuff with the e-ink badges that I've been messing around with as well that I showed earlier. So hello. Right. So sorry I'm late if you were waiting for this, but we got there. Right. So we're going to have to do some imports, but we don't have to get any new Python files. So that's good. And we have to tell it that we're using a one-wire sensor at a specific pin. Okay. And what's going on here? We also need to scan for one-wire devices on the GPIO pin we have set up. One-wire devices such as that sensor have a unique registration number. Okay, this is all new to me. I've not used one of these before. The following line in our code scans for sensors connected to our pin. And we then use a for loop, a while loop, which contains a for loop. Okay, so we're going to scan a for loop over every ROM that the scan finds. So every sensor that we find, and we've only got one here, so I guess that's going to be the only one it finds. Hopefully it finds it. And then converts temperatures reading to centigrade and prints this. The code commentary should make everything clear. So let's have a look at it here. So we're going to import some new things there, and we've got a pin, a GPIO pin like we've got before. We're saying it's an input. We are telling MicroPython what sensor is and where to find it. So that's the one-wire sensor. Here we're scanning it. So we just scan once. We don't need to scan that light every time in this loop because we're not going to change the composition of the circuit every time the loop runs, right? That's fixed when we start as hardware. So we're going to do that. There's, I guess, a library function that converts it to centigrade for us. Sorry if you're in North America. I don't know, Jess, does Canada use Celsius or Fahrenheit? I can't remember. I know the US uses Fahrenheit, but we're working in Celsius or centigrade. So numbers where freezing is 0. Then we're going to wait for 2 seconds, and then we are going to loop over each sensor and read the temperature from it. Okay. And there'll only be one sensor in our case. Right. Let's copy this and paste it into Thonny. And we need to do a new document here. Paste it into there. And I need to power up the circuit and connect Thonny. So I'm going to power that up. Just plugging it in. It is hopefully connected. And oh, there we go. So Canada also runs in Celsius. So just the Americans. I lived over there for a while, never got used to it. I always had to do the mental conversion. You start working in dollars, spending money, but for some reason temperatures never made sense. Okay, so here's my MicroPython REPL. We're alive. We've got something. It hasn't started making noise because it's not running yesterday's code. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Okay, so 26.8125. It is fairly warm in the office here, and we have got the heating on. So that, I would say, is pretty plausible. What we can do is if I hold the temperature sensor like this, see if we can influence its value. Yeah, there we go, 29. So my body temperature is a little bit higher than the room temperature, but it seems to be working. And that 30, so it's cooling down after I let go of it. Oh, hopefully it cools down after I let go of it. Still quite high. But these look like plausible values for this environment here. Yeah, there it's going down again now. We've let go of it. So we have got a basic sensor, temperature sensor reading going. So I'm going to stop that now. And let's come back and see what we're supposed to do next. So temperature indicators. So yeah, we've got LEDs in our circuit. Guess we're going to use them. Now let's use these readings to drive our LEDs. So I'm guessing based on previous days, we'll be doing a sort of bucketed approach of if the value is between this and that or less than something, then turn on one LED, otherwise turn on another. And for those who are joining us sort of later in the week, the LEDs in the circuit, let's just bring it up here. So you see how they're all clear. Actually, one of them is red, one's yellow, and one's green. It's just you don't see that until they're turned on. They're not diffused red, yellow, and green. The actual colors of the lamps are those colors. So until we turn them on, we won't see the difference. So we're going to add the LEDs back in. So those are GPIOs that are outputs. And we're going to have ranges. And I wonder if I can get it below that temperature. This can of soft drink is fairly cold, so I'm not going to shove it in there because I'm drinking this, but I could press it against the metal and see if that works. And if not, we can just change the range or something. So this code is going to look like stuff we had before. So we did this sort of thing with, I think, the light sensor and the potentiometer, definitely the potentiometer. I grab a few cups of water at different temperatures. I'm going to try and avoid doing that because I'll have to go downstairs and do it. And also we'll end up with dripping water over the desk. So we'll try and do something that doesn't involve actual water. And as it says, don't put the Pico in the water. All right, so code. This is familiar from previous days, previous streams. We've got output pins for each of our LEDs. This is what we had for the temperature sensor before. This is the setup for the temperature sensor. And then let's see, this time we are going to get this thing. Wait a second. Oh, I see. We're going to set the sensor to Celsius mode. Wait a second. Read from it. Dump that out on the console before. And then if the reading is less than 18, it'll be red, 18 to 22, and so on. So we're kind of in the green range based on the values we were getting for the environment here. So what we can either do is influence the environment by hopefully putting the sensor with something cold, cool it down a bit, or change the values. Let's see what happens. So when I run this, what we should see is, hey, there we go. So kind of hidden. And these kind of need some diffusing. So we are in the green range as I thought we would be. Let's make that a bit bigger. There you go. So we're in the green range. And that's kind of the hottest one. So I can't heat anything up anymore, but I could try pressing this against radio. I'm pressing it against the metal can here. See if that changes anything. And there might be a bit of delay on this. It's gone down to 26.125 according to the console. Output 25. I don't think it's going to get cool enough, or is it? I would imagine this can's cooler than 25. It feels cool to the touch. It's not been out of the fridge all that long. 25. This is really entertaining waiting around to see if something gets cooler, isn't it? 24. Hopefully we can get to under 22. Or if we're going to level off at that, I'm just going to change values in the code. And so we've leveled off at 24.9375. So I'm going to stop this a minute and put the desktop back so you can see that. You see here, here's the temperature values. And it's going back up again now because I've taken the can away. So let's do something like this. So if reading is greater than 28, and let's do 22. 27, then hopefully we can get some sort of change. And let me stop the back end, run this code on the Pico, and wait a second while it's doing its thing. Right, so we've got 25, and again, it's difficult to see without making this big, and these aren't diffused, but you see the yellow light is on right now, so we're into that middle bucket here because we changed it. So what we need to do is heat it up so that it gets over 28, and it should be relatively easy for me to heat it up by holding it and pulling it away from the camera. So if I hold it for a while, we've gone over, there we go, we've got the green light on now. And if we look at the desktop view, you'll see it's gone up to 30. And then if I let go of it, it should cool down to the ambient value of the room, 31, 31. It's still kind of got residual heat from my body. And here we go, it's cooling down. So it should then go back and turn on the yellow light. And we could obviously go and get some hotter and colder things, or we could mess with this more, but you get the idea. It's bucketed values, and the outputs change according to the inputs, which is coming from this temperature sensor. Come on, get lower. 30.5. Still quite high. Still quite warm over there. 375, it's going down. 8.25. Can we talk long enough until it goes back to being green? Hey, it's green. Okay. Oh, no, sorry. Can we talk long enough until it goes back to being amber? It needs to drop to like 27. It maybe is going to take a minute to do that. So whilst it's doing that, we'll sort of wait for it, but we'll just read ahead here because we do have to do 3 days today. So activity 3 will be a temperature alarm. So we've got this other output. We've got the buzzer, and that's going to make some noise, I guess, when we have temperature fluctuation. So the alarm example below is similar to yesterday's motion alarm using an alarm function. So we've been using functions to tidy code up and make them into like reusable packages. That's a bad choice of word. Okay. Reusable blocks of code. Packages in programming languages quite often means something else. And we've been doing that to light the LEDs and sound the buzzer when the temperature, we're going to do that to light the LEDs and sound the buzzer when the temperature goes below 18. So like yesterday, we did that just when the PIR sensor detected motion. And that was like a binary sort of sensor. There's either motion or no motion. There aren't degrees of motion in that sensor. So it can't tell the difference between a slow wave and a really fast one. This is more analog. It's got a range of values that can come back out. So we can do this bucketing approach. And we still have not. Ooh, it's going down. It's still not quite made it to the 27. It will get there. Could also speed it up, I suppose, by reducing this sleep in future versions of it. So we could do that, but anyway, we'll look at this now. So we've got roughly the same setup, but we're adding in the buzzer as another output. So that was a PWM, pulse wave modulation setup. If you want to see how that works, previous days streams explain that. But it allows us to basically sort of change the output noise from the buzzer with a couple of parameters. And we've got our alarm function. This is looking quite similar to the PIR one from yesterday. So we have a buzzer frequency, LEDs on, and then frequency off, and LEDs off. And then we've got a thing. If it's less than 18, we're going to change that because we're not going to be able to influence the environment that much in here without the glasses of water. So if it's less than 18, run the alarm function. So let's copy that. This is still stubbornly above 27.0. Maybe it's just warmed up in the room here a bit. There are some bright lights and so on. So Okay, that's not going to go back to the other light, but we did see it working. So let's get rid of that and paste this in. And then I'm going to change this condition so we've got something that actually works. So if the temperature is greater than, let's say, 28.5, then we are going to sound the alarm. Otherwise, we're going to do nothing. So this might get noisy if it works properly, but let's run this. And it should print the readings as it goes. So yeah, there we go. 27.375 is our new ambient reading in here, it seems. So what I need to do to trigger the alarm here is make it greater than 28.5. And when we trigger the alarm, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is this function here is going to run, and it's going to turn the buzzer up, and it's going to do 5 loops of a high-pitched buzzer, and the LEDs on for 0.2 of a second, then a lower pitch, turn the LEDs off, wait 0.2 of a second, and carry on. So I will make the circuit big and warm it up, and hopefully you can hear when it gets warm that the buzzer goes off. Let's see, it could take 5 seconds. But there we go. So we've got flashing LEDs and the buzzer is going off. Now, if I let go of it, hopefully it will cool down to below our trigger point of, there it goes again, of 28.5, and it will stop doing that. But it might take a little while to do that because the sensor is slow to cool off, it seems. So we've now got a temperature controlled alarm. I imagine we could combine some of these things as well. So we had a light sensor in here. We could have a temperature controlled alarm that only goes off in the daytime, so it doesn't annoy you at night or something like that. It's going to keep going until it's cooled down, but it is slowly cooling down. Just waiting 5 seconds between readings. But if we check more often, it would have less time to cool off a bit. I could put this cam over it, see if that cools it down any faster, but it's nearly there. It nearly at the trigger point. 29.5. What we got? Go quiet. 29.125. Yeah, it is quite warm in here as well. For winter, the heating's been on most of the day. Might regret that when we get the bill, but we'll see. There we go, 28.4375. We are under the trigger amount, and as you can see, it stopped making noise every 5 seconds because we've dropped under the trigger thing. So I'll take my can of soft drink away, and I'm going to stop this so it doesn't potentially heat back up and annoy us whilst we look at what we've got. So that was our alarm code. It's sort of similar to what we built before, and that is day 8. 8 box completed. So we're not done here on the stream for today because I need to do 9 and 10 because schedule is Friday tomorrow. I want to finish tomorrow with 11 and 12. So let's see what today's summary says. I like that they've done summaries here because it's like, you have learned the following things. So what did we learn today? We built a circuit with a temperature sensor, and we learned how that works. We used a one-wire component. I've never done that before. Other temperature sensors I've worked with work differently. I don't know if it's better or worse, or let's just say different. There's different ways of doing it. And we created a temperature monitor and a temperature alarm system. If we had a Pico W with Wi-Fi, we could log this up to like a time series database or something like that, and then draw a graph of it if we wanted to. Maybe something to look at in a future stream, because I do have plenty of Pico Ws, the ones with the Wi-Fi. This one in this circuit doesn't have the Wi-Fi. Guess it keeps the cost of the kit down and also makes it a lot simpler because you're not dealing with network connections. Right. So keep your circuit safe until tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is today. It's just going to be in a minute. And don't take anything apart just yet. So let's not take anything apart. But let's close this tab and go here. And you know the drill. We have got box 9 to deal with. So I'm going to pull box 9 out. It's a red one. And we are going to open it up. And again, first time seeing this. Never seen this before. So what's in box 9? Full tilt. Okay. Today we're going to be using a sensor that detects movement, but not like the PIR one. This is a tilt sensor. So if we're over a certain angle, turn on something maybe. So we'll be using it as a simple ball tilt sensor, which provides on-off style outputs. Okay, so yeah, you might want to use these in things like car alarms, so if someone's shaking the car, maybe airplane roll if you go over performance envelope angle, alert the pilot, something like that. Robotics and more. Okay, so this gives us a high signal when tilted over a certain angle. And this is probably going to seem like a really easy day. Okay, that remains to be seen. In this box, you will find the sensor, more jumper wires. We got a lot of jumper wires. And this time male to female jumper wires. So here's my bag of stuff. I'll get this out. The sensor looks quite small, especially compared to that temperature sensor that we just played around with. So I'm putting box 9 back in the pack there. Open the plastic bag. What's in the plastic bag? To show you the plastic bag's contents more easily, let's bring up this. And let's move this circuit out of the way and also unplug it, because if we are going to add things to it, we should probably unplug it. So it's now got this big temperature sensor on it, which has got a long dangly wire. So we've got that thing that looks like the tilt sensor. It's got 2 legs on it. And then we've got, these are different. So they are male end to female end connectors. So I guess these maybe go onto those legs. We'll see. Got a couple of them, they're glued together. And we've got a couple of the now very familiar male to male ones. We have got a lot of those. Everything in this day's box is black. So I don't know if there's a significance to that or what. So we should read on and find out. So we've got a tilt sensor switch, 2 male to male jumpers and 2 male to female. So everything's in the box, right? One thing I've been very impressed with on this so far is like everything has been in the box exactly as required. So quality control on these seems to be very good. So ball tilt sensor, the little can with 2 legs sticking out. That can has a small metal ball inside. When you tilt the sensor, gravity pulls the ball downwards. I can actually hear that. Don't know if you can hear that, but there is actually something in here that's rattling around. The leg end has 2 contacts inside which connect to each leg. When the ball rolls down to the leg end, it connects these together, so the metal ball completes the circuit inside the sensor, which then provides us with a high sensor. And when we tilt it back, it will roll away towards the other end that doesn't have the legs in. So like the capacitor or the cap end. And then it breaks the circuit. So great for robotics projects as an auto kill switch if your robot rolls over. So if it's like wrong side up and the ball hits the contacts, then the ball moves away from the contacts, then it breaks the circuit and you can use that as like a master shutdown, I guess. So, okay. So, yeah, you know the drill. Turn the peak off before changing the circuit. It's off. We're ready. Once again, we're going to start with just the LEDs and the buzzer. So we're going to take these away. I'm actually going to cheat and go a little bit ahead now. So let's see. So we need 36 and 31 again. But we can't reuse the wires from yesterday because we need the male to female ones. So all right, we'll take everything off. So back to here, we are going to disregard the temperature sensor. can go in the off-camera big pile of components to deal with another day. The resistor can go in there too. These can go in there, and so can 1, 2, and there's one in the ground rail. 3. Okay. So we're now at the start point again of we've got LEDs, buzzer, empty little board. So back to the instructions. Now to add the tilt sensor. The legs are only so strong, so while supporting the legs with your fingers so we don't snap them off, gently push the sensor's pins into the female ends of the jumper wires. Okay. So let's get ones here that have female ends. They can receive these legs here. Does it really matter which way around? No, they have no polarity, so you don't need to worry about which leg goes where. So that's good. So let's slide this into here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let's do one at a time. Let's make quite a good connection. This one, quite a good connection. So we can change the orientation of the sensor without the cables falling out, which is probably what we want. So then connect one of those wires to 3v3 physical pin 36 and the other to GPIO 26 physical pin 31. So we're not using the actual secondary board this time. We're just going to go straight with the main board. And also there's no ground this time. So any one to 36 and the other one to 31. So I'm going to do it the safe way again, because on the potentiometer today, I screwed this up and nothing worked until we fixed it off camera. So 36 and 31. So 36 is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one down, and 31 is the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th one down again. Okay, so 5 and 10. We are going to connect this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yikes. It's getting a bit crowded on this board. And I also didn't pull these wires apart, so I'm just going to pull them apart a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lost count. Count with the actual pin. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. So that, in theory, is this ball sensor connected, unless it tells us we need something else. So your circuit should look like this. So yeah, we've got two things connected there. That's the ground rail we're not using in this one. The rest of this over to the left are the LEDs that we're keeping around. Basic tilt sensor program. So let's get this running. So it works like a button. So essentially it's a button that's triggered by moving the thing. So we set the sensor's pin with pull downs. If you remember, we need pull downs so that we set an initial state of the input, so it doesn't flap around. And then, like the button, when it goes high or the circuit is completed, the value is 1, otherwise it's 0. So we want to copy that. And this looks like a fairly simple program to run. So let's do this. Remember to put power into our PiHut. Power helps because it's also the data connector, right? So once we've got power in there, we can do this and press stop and get a ripple. So I'm going to run this now, and it's tilted. Or is it? No, we're not getting any Any variation? So this might be because I have not wired it up correctly. This was a problem that we had on a previous live stream. So I am going to just double check myself and if this addresses the problem. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 36. Double check and 31. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to double check my wiring here. I'm actually going to pull them out and make very sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're in the fifth one. You go in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th one. Right. Maybe I had miscounted. Maybe not. Who knows? We're about to find out. So back to this. Got a new REPL. Run the code. You know what? I think what we need to do is watch this. See if this helps. Yep, there you go. It was working. I just had it started in the tilt position and it's not printing the timestamp or anything. So if I start it like this, held down without the circuit completed, no printing. If I turn it up, there we go. But if I turn it back again, you can't really tell the difference, right? Because it's just already filled the console with that and there's no timestamp or anything. So we don't know it's stopped doing it. So I probably was right. And this is just a quirk of how that works. So we can safely move along now. All right. So that's our basic tilt program. It's like a buzzer. It's like a button. It presents like a button from a code perspective. Let's trigger our buzzer whenever the sensor detects tilting. So this is the same mechanism that we've used in a couple of previous code samples now. And again, we need PWM because that's all about how the buzzer works. So we won't go into the details of that too much. But what you see now is if the tilt is 1, then we're just going to sound the buzzer. This should be easier to follow than the print one because of that problem with not being able to see. It's doing more printing. Right. So there we go. So the circuit is in a steady state. If I there we go. So we can now detect that it's tilted and the ball's completed the circuit. And it's a lot easier to tell because we can hear it now, which is better than this REPL with no line numbers or timestamps. So okay, that worked pretty well. Activity 3, tilt counter. So count how many times it's tilted. I like counting projects. I've done a stream on counting things before because counting things looks really simple until you introduce some complexity. Like there are lots of things counting, and maybe you want to count unique things. So like not how many cars have I seen, but how many different cars. But anyway, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, go check out my website and you will find some counting projects on there. Meantime, back to today's thing. I'm trying not to digress too much today because we do have a lot to get through. This is the most biggest number of boxes we've done in one stream. So counting the number of times a sensor has detected something can be very useful. Like knowing how many times someone has entered a room or how many times a thing has rolled over in this case, I guess. So we've added a new state variable to ensure that the pin always returns back to low before we count again. So we're not going to count it tilted and 5 seconds later it was still tilted. So if it's rolled over and stayed on its back, that's 1. If it's rolled over, come back right side up and rolled over again, that should be 2. That should be a new thing. So we're going to create the state. So we won't run unless the state is 0 and the pin is high, and then we add 1 to the counter. And okay, let's have a look at the code. So we've got some extra setup here. We've got a counter and we've got a state, simple state. So if the state is 0 and we're tilted, then we're going to add 1 to the counter. We're going to set the state to 1, print out how many things have counted. Otherwise, if the state is 1 and the tilt is 0, so we've been put back the right way up again, then we're going to change just the state back to 0. So we're ready for a new instance of tilting. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So let's copy that. Don't need to change the circuit for this. So we'll just stop that. Hit that. Push play and see what is going on. So we're not getting any new tilts until I do. She's a little bit unreliable. I think I'd probably add a bit more of a weight in there to let the ball settle. I think what's happening is it's hitting the bottom, completing the circuit, and then bouncing around a little bit, which is why you see a few more. So let's stop that. I mean, it's fundamentally working, but I think it could be maybe made a bit more reliable. I don't know if we're going down that road because this is all new to me. I've not seen this stuff before. Now return to activity 2 and see how you could improve in this in some way, waiting for the pin to trigger low. So I think one improvement we could do here would be letting the state of the thing sort of coalesce by doing waiting a second or something, see if that helps. Turn it back. Yeah, so maybe my theory was somewhat correct that the ball's bouncing around. If I do this again, I'm back. We get a fifth one, but we don't get a sixth and a seventh in quick succession because we're just letting it settle into its position. Okay. So I don't feel the need to do buzzer stuff because we do have a lot to get through today. But we could apply the same principles here, and we could do things with the LEDs and the buzzer with the tilt sensor, similarly to what we just did with the temperature sensor or the buttons before or the potentiometer. So, okay. So the good thing is as well, you can write the code with one of these sensors and pretty much swap in another one without changing the majority of your logic. So we could have a button in there to start with, count distinct presses on that, and then swap it out for the tilt sensor later with minimal code changes. We don't have to change the while loop or the counting logic, just the imports for the sensor potentially. So we've learned what a tilt sensor is, and we've learned how to wire it, and it was pretty easy. There's only 2 connections. Basic tilt alarm, and we used lots of things we've already learned. And we're not going to disassemble it because we're going to go to day 9, which day 9 is also today on this stream. Sorry, day 10. Sorry, this was day 9. I'm getting ahead of myself. And let's do a look at day 10 then. So this is the final Advent Calendar day for today's live stream. If you want to see 11 and 12, I will be back doing those tomorrow in a more morning-facing slot in the UK time. So I think it's like 10 a.m. UK time. But there'll be an event on YouTube and the other places shortly after this one finishes. So day 10, the last one for today, breaking beams. I like break beam sensors. I've worked with them before, and there's a there's an article on my website that using a brake beam sensor with Python. So I got these from Adafruit ages ago, and there's a rare example of me using Fritzing to do circuit diagrams on my own website. Use them with a regular full-scale Raspberry Pi, which has an operating system. It's basically a computer. And wrote a Python script that works with those. And then I was using them to detect cars going past and breaking the beams. Like, the car enters the car park, or it enters a thing, let's pop the door, or, whatever else circuit we wanted to put it into. So there's that. I will put that article in the comments in case you want to play with it. So let's do that. And so I thought, and you want the URL for that, it's quite a long one, but yeah, find it on my website anyway. So said I wouldn't digressing. Brake beams, right? These sensors allow your project to detect something passing between them, and usually there's different sizes of gap that the brake beam can support. Probably going to be quite small with this level of power, and probably quite a small sensor that fits in the box. So in today's box, we will find a custom brake beam sensor. They have two parts, an emitter and a receiver. So you see here, there's two. That's one sensor because they work as a pair. Essentially, when you interrupt the beam that's passing between them, that's like pressing a button. It's like, oh, the event has happened. We can see what's going on. A 10K resistor and even more male-to-male jumper wires. We're going to have so many jumper wires. We already do. So let's get box 10 out of the big box. Box 10 is, if we're keeping score, one of these sort of black type colored boxes. And inside box 10, here's the bag. The bag has all the stuff in it. I'll put 10 back in the big box there and put that out of the way. And I'm going to open this up and power down this circuit because we are pretty wise to that. And there we go. I just noticed we didn't use these from box 9. These were the male-to-male jumpers. I'm going to discard those, but they were probably for if you wanted to do some freeform optional activities with other bits. Although I think you'd have had the jumpers for that from the previous box. But anyway, we didn't use them, so didn't need them. Right, so onwards to today. Today now being day 10. What's in this bag here? Let's open it up. We have got shaky resistor. We have got even more jumper wires. There are 4 of them this time. We've got red, black, yellow, and white. Okay, and then we've got 2 of these. One's a sensor and one's a receiver. Do they look the same? Not quite. Yeah. So this has got a sort of clear thing on it. This has got a darker thing on it. I don't actually think it matters which way around we wire the sensor and the receiver because it's a beam between them, and the input is we're going to interrupt it. There isn't like a where we interrupted it or anything like that. So back to the instructions. Let's see. Right. Brake beam sensor in your box comes with 2 parts: the emitter, 2 wires, and the receiver, 3 wires. Okay. So there's a physical difference. So this is the receiver here, the one with the dark thing across it. So it's got 3 wires. And the emitter has this sort of crystally thing and 2 wires. So they are easy to tell apart. And it sends out an infrared light, so we're not going to be able to see that, which is probably what you want, because if you were setting up some sort of security perimeter, you don't want people to see your beam. It's not unless you want it to act as a deterrent, but you're going to have to use signage because you can't see it. So the emitter sends out an infrared light, which is detected by the receiver, which keeps the white signal pin high. So in the normal case, it's high, and then if we break it, the circuit breaks and it goes low. So we need to tell the code to watch for the low signal because that's the event we're interested in. It goes low. Someone broke the beam. Something broke the beam. Something has interrupted the gap and is heading towards us or whatever. So, and as they say, it's the opposite of what we've been looking for so far. So we've mostly been looking for high things. Now we're looking for low. These work well when placed up to 20 to 25 centimeters apart. Bigger ones can be used for other areas like doorways. I've worked places before where you use them for things like, is there a tote or plastic box on a conveyor coming past, and so on. So we can use these as a hand sensor to trigger your code. So you could be like that, break the beam and it runs something with a train set or a scalextric set as a lap counter. Yep, if it interrupts that. Cookie jar, something for robotics, and lots of other things. Okay, so unplug the USB cable. Yep, we're done. Remove the tilt sensor from yesterday, but leave the LEDs and buzzer in place. This is becoming like a thing here, isn't it? So let's do this. Here's our tilt sensor. I'm just going to pull its 2 pins out, disregard it, and we have got the circuit in the state that they want it to be in to start with. So we won't spend much time looking at that because that's been the start state for several days now. It's like our sort of go-to state. So now grab the mini breadboard. So this is coming back into place. So let's get the mini breadboard there and fit both the red and black jumper wires into the same holes as we have below. Okay. So I need the one with the 2 here. So that goes. I don't think we need to be exactly the same holes. It's the same tracks, the vertical lines that matter. So do that. Here's one side of our break beamy thing. And then we need the other side of the break beamy thing. This has got 3 wires on it. So its red wire goes in the same track as the other one's red wire. The black wire goes in the same track as the other one's black wire. I guess that's power and ground coming off, and we'll connect them to the Pico's board, probably, I would imagine. And then this white one here is going to go somewhere over to the side, and that's going to be our data, the thing that the event causes to trip. So we've got a bit messy to look at on the camera, but you know we've got that set up, and the diagram seems to be what we've got here. So we need to add the included 10K resistor between the 3v3 and the signal pins. So fit it there. So you can see it there, linking that vertical track with that vertical track. So let me do that. I need to plug the resistor in to 2 places and make sure it's fairly firmly connected. Right, so there it is. Not the straightest legs, but that doesn't matter. They're in the right tracks. And I don't know if you can hear, but there is a heck of a wind outside still. We've still got the storm. But that shouldn't stop us doing this. Now we need to connect everything to our Pico/breadboard. Connect the black ground line to the blue ground channel. So I'm going to use these that they've provided. And we've got black ones, so we'll do the black ground line on the mini board here to the blue ground channel on the main board here. That's quite stiff, but we're there. Okay. the red 3 line to physical pin 36. That's that one again. I really should learn and not unplug the things. Although yesterday's was a different uh, different setup. Okay, 36. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth one down, isn't it? So red on this side goes into. Bump the camera there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm holding it against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So that's into the Pico board there. We'll look at this in the big view in a minute. And the white line into 31, which is the 10th one down. But let's just triple check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So the white is essentially data line that comes off one side of this. We're going to patch with a white jumper cable into the 10th pin down on Pico. So that one is row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So similarly to previous days, I'll bring this up on big camera. We have a bit of a mess of wiring, but these 3 things at the back over here are connected to the Pico. And here we've got our beam. I could use some blue tack or something really to hold these so that they stay apart from each other, because they've got to face each other and make a beam, and then we've got to break it. But if I do that and let them go, then it's going to break. But we'll worry about it later. Again, if I'd known about this in advance, I'm trying to do this without any advanced knowledge, might have brought some blue tack to the office, but we'll improvise. So basic break beam program. So you need to secure the emitter and the receiver on a flat surface with the little round heads facing each other. Okay. I'll plug the Pico in first so that we don't have to upset it by doing that. And then I'm going to move the circuit out of the way and then try and secure these 2 in a position where they're sort of facing each other. So what we got that can do that? I haven't got any clamps or anything. Got a Tasmotor plug. Let's see if we can squash one under here. And do similarly with, I've got a second Tasmotor plug off the camera here. Let's see if we can squash the other one under the second Tasmotor plug. This is where no foresight is a little bit problematic, because I couldn't really prepare for this. So I've got these 2 hopefully facing each other. Maybe putting this on the bigger camera will help demonstrate that. So there you go. You see under that plug there's one side peeking out, and then it goes over to the other plug, and hopefully what we can do is wander in here and break the beam. May or may not work, but this is the general idea. Okay, so if that's the general idea, we're going to need some code that supports that. And keep an eye on the jumper wires, as they like to escape from breadboards sometimes. Yeah, it says here use blue tack, sticky tape, or simply some books or other heavy items. Well, we've gone with the heavy items, the plugs, because that's what I'd got to hand. If you're trying this at home, maybe use blue tack, because that allows for decent positioning. Anyway, so we're going to import pin and time. So this is just an input, and it's got a pull down resistor. So we're setting the normal state to be down, And then we're saying if the value is 0, so normally it's going to be 1 because the beam is hopefully aiming from one to another, completing the circuit. And when we interrupt it, we're going to print beam is broken. And again, this is going to have that slight problem of once it's filled our console here, we can clear the console. So that's useful. But once it's filled it, which it should do fairly quickly, then we will not see any new ones. So we'll run this, and if it says beam broken immediately, it's probably because the two things aren't pointing at each other properly yet. So it doesn't. So maybe that worked. So if we put an object in the way, like a finger, there we go, beam broken. If we take it away, it's stopped. And if I clear the console, we know it's stopped because it's not printing any more things. Put the finger back in the way. Broken, stop. So yeah, we've got a break beam circuit that's working. That's rather surprising considering it's sort of ad hoc put together with a couple of heavy plugs to hold it down. So activity 2, break beam high score game. Let's make a game with these sensors that counts the number of times you can break the beam within 30 seconds. Print your score at the end, then closes the program. So we need to ensure players can't cheat simply by holding their finger in place if you broke the beam all the time. So we use the same method as yesterday's counting code. Okay, so we have a bit of a state or something. We've been using time.sleep a lot, but let's use, in this case, time.time. So it's going to return the number of seconds since epoch. That's a bit of a concept to explain on this stream that isn't really about this stuff, but basically computers count from 0 seconds being the 1st of January 1970, and you can count seconds or milliseconds or whatever since then, and you get a number that just increases. You might hear it referred to as the Unix timestamp as well. So we can do that, but it basically is a cheap way of counting and timing things. So, okay, we are going to do that to figure out if 30 seconds have passed. So if you take the epoch time at the start and then you keep taking it once the new time is 30 or greater than the previous one, you know that 30 seconds have passed. You don't know what time of day it is. You just know 30 seconds have passed. Okay. So, yeah, we'll skip that. It's a number. And right. All right. So we've now got set up the break beam. We're going to use the buzzer as the output. Start time and time check and score counters. These are all like state variables. And so it's going to beep to start the game, and then we have 30 seconds to break the beam, I guess. Once 30 seconds have passed, we're going to do game over, beep that, print our score, and exit. Otherwise, if the beam's broken and we're not sort of recovering from a previous broken beam state, we're going to add 1 to the score, put the state into beam was just broken. So a bit like we used before in the last example. Yesterday, day 9, earlier in this stream. Then we're going to print the running score and the time remaining. And then basically, if we just did that in the previous loop and they've removed the finger or the object that's breaking the beam, then we'll change the state back so that a continuous finger or thing in the way of the beam doesn't keep racking up this condition. It has to go into this other condition. The thing was removed before you can score another point. So I see what they're doing here. So we'll use this handy copy button. And we will paste that in. And we will notice that for some reason I've got a spare jumper, but seems okay. And let's clear our console, run this. And what's going to happen? So I don't have to break the beam to start the game. It's just going to start. So we're going to be ready for the buzzer to go off and then go to be printed out. And then we'll see if I can break this a few times and see if it counts what we are doing. Okay. Well, as you can see, I'm moving my finger in and out. If I keep it there, nothing happens. And we go in, and I've got 19, 18, 30 seconds is quite a long time when you have to talk through it whilst you're doing silly things with fingers. So we'll keep going. I've got 65, 69, 70. Stop for a minute and see what happens. So we can get a couple more in. 5 seconds. So it's going to beep when this finishes. There we go. Scored 90. So the beam was broken 90 different times in that 30 seconds. And our counting code helps manage that by using this basic state idea of flip over the state variable to 1 when the beam's been broken, and then the beam has to go back to the value being 1, so the finger was withdrawn or the obstruction was withdrawn and the circuit was completed, and put the state back to 0, so the next time it's broken, it counts as a new break and not a continuation of the previous break. So that was working quite nicely. Activity 3, break beam target score game. Okay, so the last activity we created a game to get the highest possible score. Okay, this time we're creating a game with a target hit within 30 seconds. So I guess that's a specific number of breaks within the time. We're going to use the LEDs to show how close you are. So like a sort of completion indicator. That's smart. So it uses similar code to the example above, but we make it a little busier, so more code, by adding in the LEDs, which should be a fairly familiar concept by now. Their outputs, their pins. A new variable to set a target score, additional if statements to, similarly to what we've done with other sensors, to bucket the values up so into conditions so that the LEDs can come on when the value is between certain things. So that's okay. And yeah, setting a target score. And it's going to use percentages this time, so thirds. So if we're in the lower third of hitting our target, it'll be red and then amber and then green. So you can see how close you are to winning. Okay. So yeah, we've got the LED pins here. That's new code for this example, but not new code for this stream series. We've gone over that a few times. Break beam pin stays the same. Buzzer, same. New variables of target score. And then more ifs in here to deal with the time check. So if 30 or more seconds have passed, but everything off. Okay, no, they don't deal with the time check. Oh, here we go. So when we're dealing with updating the score, because it's the only time that the score changes, we basically update the LEDs as well. And depending on the value of the score, tells us which third of the challenge we're in versus our target. So what percentage way through are we? And turns the LEDs on accordingly. Right. So I get that. So copy button again. Yep. And what's our target? That's a good question. Didn't look at that, did we? Target score is 100. I'm going to have to be busy. And also, we're going to have the camera so we can see the LEDs. So let's just move camera around a bit so we can see the LEDs. Are those really not going to be that visible? Ooh, yuck. See, it's difficult to move the circuit because I have to move the circuit, I think. It's difficult to move the circuit because we interrupt the setup of the brake beam, but you know what? We'll do it. So there's the LEDs. Can we get the brake beam set up near them? Not really. So you're going to have to imagine that. But I'm setting up the beam. So the beam is just off camera. Let's move the camera back. So can we see the... Okay, so between those two plugs is where we're going to break. They're the LEDs. I could try holding the. Nah, that's going to be a mess. Or I could try messing around with the tripod, but let's just. Yeah, that's not bad. Let's try that. So hopefully, when the LEDs come on, we don't. So the red one is on at the minute, and we've got. I'm going to have to keep doing this for quite some time. So let's switch with use the other hand to make the camera a bit bigger. Hey, there we go. So the yellow one's on. So I must be in I'm at 44, 45, 48 out of 100. And my finger's getting sore. 61, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey. Oh no, I wasn't fast enough. But you get the idea. So we've bucketed those values up. And if we go back to this view and we see the output, you'll see that I actually lost because I didn't do the 100 in the time, but I got 68, so I got 2 of the LEDs on. So it's the same concept of that we've used before of bucketed values doing different things with the LEDs. So yeah, so that was kind of fun. And that's day 10 complete. So why not get the whole family involved? Again, if we had the Wi-Fi version of the Pico, you could maybe store the values in a cloud database and build some sort of leaderboard out of them, and then have like a web page updates or something. So you could build an online version of this that maybe multiple people with this kit or something similar could play with. It's kind of just another way of counting, right? So it's just a different sensor that triggers a count. Or you could have versions of it where there's like the button versus the brake beam, and then can people press the button faster than they can do the brake beam? You've got all the parts in here to make that work, or maybe even cover the light sensor release. Yep. So that's what we did on day 10. There's a little bit of a spoiler here. Tomorrow, which will be tomorrow, today is Thursday if you're watching this live. Tomorrow will be Friday, so tomorrow morning UK time about 10 o'clock. I'll be doing the final 2 days. So day 11, which is a box the same size as the majority have been. This one was a big box because it had that big breadboard in. And day 12 is quite a big box as well. So who knows what is in there? We're not going to look ahead. But tomorrow, it says, does not include a sensor. We figured you might be a bit censored out by now. This was the last sensor you'll receive in the calendar, and now you're wondering what's in the next 2 boxes. So we are. As I see you tomorrow, which we will. So I will see you tomorrow for more of the same, and I will do my best to be on time. But if life gets in the way, I will, do it when I can. But we are aiming to be at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And the final thing that I will share with you, which probably would have made sense to share earlier, is if you want to find out when things are tomorrow, follow on whatever platform you're watching this on, or go to my website. Because what I did on my website was I have added a page on the website. If you go to the website and you go to just click the most recent article, there's a page about doing this project. There's pictures of it. And I'm keeping all of the videos in the right order down here. And this is where somebody on Twitter helped me out, where I miswired the potentiometer. So today's video for days 8, 9, and 10 will go down here. But there's also this remaining schedule. So as you can see, we have only got tomorrow, and I'm going to be back at 10 o'clock UTC, which also at this time of year, that basically means UK time. So if you're in the UK and your clock says 10 o'clock, then you can probably expect me to be up and about, and I won't have been anywhere in the morning by that point. So I will try and be on time. We try and do these things on time. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to go and I'll be back tomorrow. If you want to see more of this silly stuff, probably give me a follow on Twitter, which we're still calling it Twitter on this channel. I'm not interested in what it's called to other people. Twitter, that's where you find us. URL's still Twitter as well. So anyhow, enough of that. So thanks for listening and watching, and see you tomorrow maybe. Bye.